This is Inspiring Design, where unique innovators come together to share their knowledge, share their insight, and keep us up to date with the latest industry trends. And here's your host, Roshan Senanayake.
What's up, listeners? Welcome to Season 4 of Inspiring Design with Roshan Senanayake. This is where the best of the best brands, experts, change makers, and thought leaders come together to share their valuable insights, experience, and knowledge, all centered around the growth sector in advanced manufacturing within Industry 4.0, encompassing various industries, technologies, skills, knowledge, trends, as well as stakeholders, all the while linking it back into education within schools and universities. So without further ado, let me introduce you to the first guest of Season 4, Francisco Betti, the head of shaping the future of advanced manufacturing and production for the World Economic Forum. This is one of the international recordings, and Francisco is an expert in manufacturing and production. He heads the World Economic Forum's Advanced Manufacturing Platform. Francisco also has a deep knowledge on governance, strategy, and work plan development. He has previously worked in risk management and in international development. Not to mention, the World Economic Forum, committed to improving the state of the world, is the international organization for public-private cooperation. The forum engages the foremost political, business, and other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industry agendas. So without further ado, let's get straight into it.
Francisco, welcome to Inspiring Design, mate. Can we start off with a little bit of background and your history and understand your story? What's the Francisco story all about?
Well, Roshan, many thanks for hosting me today, first of all, and I'm delighted to be talking to you and your community. My background story, well, I have a background in political science and international relations. And before joining the World Economic Forum, I worked for several years for PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, mainly in management consulting, servicing what we call the international organization space, so the UN system and other organizations in that broader international space. And on a personal note, maybe I was born and grew up in Argentina. Did my studies mainly in Italy, and I'm a Swiss citizen. I've been living in Switzerland for the past over 14 years, and I hold a Swiss, an Argentinian, and an Italian passport.
Brilliant. That's pretty cool. And so this is why I love this episode. You're joining us from all the way on the other side of the world, and I'm loving the connectivity. So now, some of our listeners may or may not have heard of the World Economic Forum. So for those listeners, can you clarify a little bit exactly who the World Economic Forum is, your capabilities, any services? What are the values of what the World Economic Forum is all about?
Absolutely. I mean, the World Economic Forum is the international organization for public-private cooperation. We are a non-for-profit that for the past 50 years has been bringing together stakeholders from business, government, academia, and civil society, helping them work together, collaborate around some of the most pressing issues that the world and we as a global society are facing today. What I should say in terms of history is that we started mainly convening communities, and probably the most well-known on the, let's say, global event is what we call our annual meeting that we host every year in Davos. But that's probably 10% of what we do. The real work and magic happens throughout the year through these multi-stakeholder communities that we put together around specific thematic areas. And let's say that the area that I'm responsible for is the one focusing on the future of manufacturing and production systems. In other words, as well, Industry 4.0.
Yeah, Bill, that's brilliant, and I love the work that you guys are doing. It's so informative, and the whole premise of making that global community is one of the most important things. And I think personally, I believe can resonate a lot with the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, and as well as uniting in a full front. So thank you so much for the work you're doing. And you mentioned a couple of things there, and being your speciality in the advanced manufacturing and Industry 4.0. So before we dive into the details, can you elaborate on, in your words, what exactly is Industry 4.0?
Well, I think it's in the way we define and understand it is a synonym to advanced manufacturing, to intelligent manufacturing, depending which part of the world you are. But it's really the transformation of production systems and business models through the adoption of new technologies. Now, very often those technologies are not applied as individual standalone pieces of equipment of software, but in combination to develop new and amazing use cases that can drive efficiency, reduce cost, and at the same time contribute, for example, to sustainability, to the enablement of new customer experience, and so on. So it's let's say it's the core of the transformation of manufacturing, but goes much beyond that, because it's enabling a full new range of approaches to products, customers, and the environment, which I think it's quite exciting.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of it, the whole connected nature of exactly even what we're doing and how that impacts how our day-to-day life works within this connected and intelligent society. And I think it's the biggest challenges here in Australia is that almost keeping up with those technological changes within Industry 4 and letting those skill sets that affected filter down to an education level. Now, in building and manufacturing, I believe in Australia or in other countries, they do call it advanced manufacturing. Can you explain exactly what is advanced manufacturing?
I think we are using advanced manufacturing pretty much as a synonym of Industry 4.0. And once again, it's the ability or the new opportunity that companies have to take technological developments that are reaching a new tipping point and have a transformative power to radically change the way in which they make products, first of all, but also the way in which they are serving customers. So imagine, from a standard traditional vehicle towards building an electrical and connected vehicle, right? Well, that requires a significant upgrade of the production processes and redesign and rethink of the production processes as well. And then all the way to, for example, the use of sensors, data to be able to interact with the customer, monitor the performance of the cars over time, and be able to inform either customers or companies' decisions on those bases. So it's really, I should call advanced manufacturing the transformation, the next generation of manufacturing, and what that's providing mainly is the ability to have more flexible and agile production lines, but also to connect value chains end to end. And through the transformation of production lines, you drive efficiency and you drive product innovation. Through connected value chains is how you enable those new customer experiences. So as I said before, from traditional standard cars to connected vehicles and the opportunity to provide mobility as a service, that could be a good example of a radical change, which is enabled by this new set of technologies and use cases that are kind of driving this transformation that we are seeing. And what is interesting is that we are seeing that happening across multiple industries and all over the world. It doesn't really matter, whether you have a traditional and solid manufacturing base as a country, but there are opportunities for every country to jump on and take this new train.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what makes it cool. It like you mentioned, it does impact a lot of industries across the board here. So, in your experience, looking at things from a global point of view, what kind of industries actually fall within this environment, and what are those industries that are going to actually transform and take it to that next level?
And that's a great question, Roshan. And let me define it this way. I think you have a hardcore group of companies that are starting to define themselves as advanced manufacturers. Now, which subgroups fall within those categories? And there you have a combination of traditional players, but also new companies that are emerging and growing super fast, becoming unicorns in many cases. But for example, you have the entire 3D printing community. 3D printing is a major driver of an enabler of advanced manufacturing solutions and use cases. You have the entire space of companies providing advanced robotics and automation solutions. And there you have, again, a combination of more traditional robotic companies, but also there's a huge generation of new companies that are bringing incredible new and exciting developments to the table. You have then the entire space of what someone could call the digital services, right? So from IoT cloud services for manufacturing to all sort of software developments as well. And of course, in addition to that, then you have some, let's say, some key enablers. Imagine companies working on new materials. Semiconductor companies, you need the chips to go into the machines that allow you to upgrade your production processes, and at the same time some chips that goes into the end products that will help you capture data all the way down to the consumers, right? And then I think that there are some segments which are probably at the forefront of this transformation. So think about the native manufacturing companies, right? Those companies who are mainly in the electronics components, Foxconn, Jabil, Flex, those companies by default, by definition, they are becoming advanced manufacturers. Now, what is interesting is that all these companies that I'm describing, are starting to identify themselves with this new definition of advanced manufacturing industry 4.0. But then you also have a full spectrum of other industries who are consumers of those technologies and products and who are seriously investing in new capabilities and technologies, from auto, which is moving into becoming a mobility industry, through healthcare, to mining and metals. Imagine mining, a very traditional industry. Well, we are seeing today, automated electric mines, right? Which are making a huge difference, whether it's on the performance, productivity side, but also on the, for example, the environmental footprint that the mining sector traditionally had.
Yeah, and this is actually the power of Industry 4.0 and this technology of advanced manufacturing, because personally, one of the things that I'm very excited to see and constantly impressed is how these technologies like 3D printing and prototyping and sensoring has transformed the healthcare industry, like you mentioned, and just literally 3D printing organ parts and being able to successfully keep that flow going. It's completely flipping things on its head. So I'm personally loving it. And in addition to that, I think what's important is even in farming, we're seeing a lot of impact on how food and general produce is actually produced within using these technological advancements. So it's actually pretty cool. Now, a question I've been dying to ask you is, if we had to detail, almost dot point, the different technologies that are key within this environment, what would that be? Now, I know you already mentioned 3D printing. If you could dot point them, what would be the key technologies that are part of this new sphere?
There is a broad range of technologies, from 3D printing, advanced robotics, nanotechnology, virtual reality, augmented reality, mobility, AI, IoT. So, there are many. Now, if you ask me, which are the ones that I believe are going to have the most transformative impact across industries, I could name three. I could say IoT, but IoT has been around for a long time now. Of course, things are improving as we go. Why? Because you do need connected devices, right? And you do need connected devices, whether it's your equipment within the factory to monitor performance or the end products that customers will be buying, so that they can engage with them in a totally new and amazing way, right? So I think that IoT has already had a transformative power and will continue having some going forward. The second one that will most likely radically transform many industries is, of course, 3D printing. Why? Because as soon as we are able to adopt 3D printing for mass production and not for prototyping, I mean, we will be able to a certain extent to decentralize manufacturing, to produce locally, to customize, to be faster to market. So that's really opening up a full new range of opportunities. And if as today, 3D printing was mainly the prototyping space, we are seeing a lot of interesting developments, many accelerated by the current pandemic, in which 3D printing, came up as one of the key enablers of fast solutions. But we are starting to see a large scale adoption of 3D printing for mass production. And when I say mass, it doesn't mean that it's not customized, but for its adoption of 3D printing and within factories. And then the third one, I think it's the combination of 5G and AI, which will enable every piece of equipment to be operating on the edge, to be intelligent, and to radically increase performance. Now, something I should flag, and I think that it's interesting to see how there's a tendency for people to focus on individual technologies. Now, what very often happens when the conversation goes that way is that you end up getting lost into a hype curve. Now, the way in which companies are thinking about manufacturing is it's in very practical terms. There's no company who is looking at technologies individually. What companies are trying to do is to solve and address very specific production and business issues, challenges, many of which are new in the current post-pandemic context, that require unique solutions that can be only developed through the combination of multiple technologies. So that's why we are taking, when we engage with companies, when we get in global conversations, we are taking a very practical approach, which moves away from talking about individual technologies to reduce the risk of getting to the hype side of things, and talks about use cases, the practical, tangible adoption of solutions on the shop floor and its deployments across multiple facilities and value chain. I think that's a very important point and element to take into account.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think these are all crucial elements within almost every country that's moving into this area now. Being in education myself, one of the biggest challenges that we see here is the skill shortages that comes with it, because currently most of the countries in the world are actually aligned with an education system that services towards the needs of Industry 3.0 or Industry 3, which is in this transformational time period is a little bit outdated now, and it's not suitable towards the thinking and the mechanisms and the skills required. So with this also shift towards this new element comes with a key set of skills that allows someone to use and utilize these skill sets and actually work towards it and be successful within these environments looking towards Industry 4.0. So in my opinion, I believe the role of design thinking, resilience, computer literacy, emotional intelligence, all of these elements will play a key role within preparing the next generations towards the actual Industry 4.0, being in the middle of it. What's your thoughts on this? What are the key skills required for this future of Industry 4.0?
Absolutely, Russian, and I think that you named some of those. I mean, everything that has to do with digital skills is going to be essential to be able
Mm-hmm.
to either operate equipment on the shop floor or be able to handle and manage, the new connected devices and products that companies are making now. Now, I think that we will also see a lot of new skills that will be required to provide and enable the services that come with those products. And that's mainly what we will likely see job creation going forward. Now, let me, before we talk about the skills in more detail, I think that an important point to highlight is that at a very fast pace, we are seeing jobs being displaced and jobs being created in
Mm-hmm.
manufacturing today. Because of
Yep.
course, to think about how automation is helping replace dangerous and repetitive tasks so that people
Yep.
can focus on more value-add activities. And at the same time, this full new set of technologies and use cases are requiring people with new qualifications, with new abilities that may not be immediately available in certain markets, right? So you have jobs displacement, and then at the same time you have job creation and a skills gap. Now, I think that's why I like to talk about, it is all about how do we manage that transition. And that
Mm-hmm.
transition cannot be managed by companies only. This is where the forum gets extremely interesting as a platform for multi-stakeholder dialogue and cooperation. It is essential that companies, governments, academia, and civil society, and by civil society I mean mainly labor unions, can
Mm-hmm.
work together to develop new plans that will look at, what are the new skills that we need to be training people on going forward. How do we
Yep.
put in place new training programs and modules? Is the current college, university, sequencing the right one, or is it too slow? We keep hearing from companies that they are hiring engineers from the best schools in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and they still need to spend months and months training them on new digital skills and capabilities, right? So I think that there's an urgent need for a multi-stakeholder dialogue around jobs in manufacturing so that the transition can be handled in the best
Mm-hmm.
possible way. Now, the second element is that in doing so, we need to make sure that we put the individuals at the center of the equation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the goal here is not to adopt technology for the sake of adopting technologies. I think that we can and we should be adopting technologies that are driving productivity by enhancing workers' capabilities. And when you look at VR, AR, and the ability to use, real time or to follow real time instructions on the shop floor, well, that's an amazing way to take workers to the next level and drive productivity and increase yield. When you talk about, the ability to make real time decisions by leveraging predictive maintenance tools, which are powered by data and AI.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's enabling managers to monitor in real time and make decisions as they go. And something that a third element that I think we need to consider is not just about new technical and soft skills, digital skills and digital skills that are required. I think there's also a big mindset change that
Mm-hmm.
is needed, and that not just companies and workers, but also universities, colleges,
Yep.
civil society need to embrace. And we are saying, the big question is, in 10 years from now, when we will look back, how will that overall equation look like? And there are some worrying signs which shows that if we don't manage this transition altogether, we may fail as society. But there are also
Mm-hmm.
very, very positive signs with very exciting, pockets of job creation emerging. Now,
Mm-hmm.
once again, and back to your point, digital skills, design thinking, soft skills are going to be essential for people to be able to benefit from those new jobs that are being created and in which right now we have a skills gap.
Yeah, I think that's well said, mate. And that's the concern for a lot of individuals is the job loss that you mentioned. But at the same time, in my opinion, I believe because of these new skill sets, new avenues opening, it's not necessarily a job displacement. It's actually a job evolution, which changes and transforms. It may be making the jobs that we knew 20 years ago redundant. However, it's actually opening up twice the amount of different types of different skill sets, different integrations of different skills and technologies coming together and bringing more opportunities. And something interesting that I have found is that if people are willing to, I think, be creative, they're able to find gaps in utilizing these technologies to come up with a completely new employment opportunity, new area, new industries, even without even simply by playing with it and being creative. So I think it's a very exciting time. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it is a very, very exciting time. I think it's, when these kind of conversations, I believe, are essential to help people, especially students, understand how the manufacturing landscape is evolving and use that to inform career choices, right? I'm a strong believer. I don't have a background in engineering. As I said, I have a background in political science, economic and international development. And when we started looking at the future of manufacturing, the forum, the entry angle was the industrial policy one, right? Is how governments can keep up with the changes that we are seeing and where the policy approaches that are needed. And I do have now a team of engineers, and my strong belief is that we will need more and more engineers going forward in the future, right? So I believe that, someone who is going for an engineering career opportunity right now, may have a lot of amazing and exciting opportunities in manufacturing going forward. Manufacturing is no longer that dirty, boring career path that it used to be before. Now the belief as well is that just going to university is not going to be enough. People will need to move and change their mindset and get into a continuous on-the-job training. We may see in the future people pivoting on an ongoing basis and forever from factories, facilities, companies to universities, back and forth as technology evolves so that we can keep pace. We will see mid-career workers, being asked to make a break at the age of 45, 50 to go through a retraining, journey so that they can adopt new digital skills. Now, something that is fascinating about manufacturing, Rush, and that I want to flag is that, when you look at a shop floor today, and you see the experienced shop floor operators who have been in the factory, for 25, 30 years, and can listen to a machine and predict and tell you what's working, what's not. And you have the new young digital generations and shop floor engineers. I think that combination of very unique manufacturing know-how with digital skills has a tremendous power. And that's why it's important not just to create these intergenerational links that will help us to share that tacit know-how that is still required and very important in manufacturing to the new generations that will come with a new set of digital capabilities and skills. I think that's very exciting and unique as well.
Indeed, and you were dropping all the words that are aligning and resonating with everything that I'm actually thinking. And a phrase that I like to use is this is part of professional social sustainability, where all those intergenerational links, the capabilities of the different generations, the thinking styles, the utilization of technology, all the stakeholders coming together and they're moving forward. So I'm loving everything that you're saying, Matt. And so on that note, what's the advice that you can give to schools and universities, specifically just targeting educators? What's your advice towards them?
I think that when it comes to universities, what we are seeing more and more is, especially when it comes to engineering universities, which are located in an area in which there is somehow a certain manufacturing presence, is to start working closer with the companies with whom they could partner, to enable that continuous dialogue and flow in between the shop floor, the companies, and the classrooms, right? So engaging in conversations with shop floor engineers, with middle management, or what are the latest, let's say, production problems that your facility is trying to address, and share those with the students, and use that to develop new ideas and share back with the factory. I think that there's a need for a new dialogue and a new approach to collaboration in between universities and their local communities, especially when it comes to engineering and manufacturing. I think the more we can create those linkages, and there are plenty of great examples from around the world, but the more we see those linkages, the better, both for the students, for the universities themselves, and for the companies. The second element is that there is probably a need to revisit the curricula, the training modules, the different classes, and there's an urgent need to do that by looking at, and having a real and good understanding of how manufacturing is being transformed. There's no point in training people without looking at, some of the technologies that we just discussed, from IoT to AI. It's not science fiction anymore. The transformation is going on now, and it's been radically accelerated by the current pandemics, which is forcing companies to think and adopt new approaches to manufacturing to be more resilient. So there's a need to rethink each and every training module and curricula in light of the latest developments. And that can be done as well in collaboration with the private sector, with companies, right? So that we provide some very, let's say, basic digital literacy and skills, but we can also get closer to what is needed on the day-to-day on the shop floor. And then when it comes to the students, I think that it's really, I'm advocating for manufacturing, of course, because that's the area in which I'm involved, but I think that there are very exciting opportunities. Talk to people who are working in manufacturing today, or for universities, there's an opportunity to invite people from factories to talk to students. Manufacturing, as I said before, is no longer the boring, dangerous, and dirty place that it used to be 10, 20, 50 years ago. I mean, if you go to a college and you ask students, who wants to work on manufacturing, you may see very few hands up, right? But if you ask, who wants to work with AI, augmented reality, exoskeletons, advanced robotics? I mean, that becomes a very interesting and rewarding journey. And then the other thing that I feel it's extremely rewarding about manufacturing is that you live in a continuous improvement and development journey. Because by looking at how things can improve for your products, for your processes, you're also constantly challenging yourself. And there's a constant need to look at developing new capabilities, evolving your thinking, working in collaboration. We are seeing more and more partnerships being established between traditional manufacturers and a network of innovators, right? A large company may not have the bandwidth to look at on the most advanced or the capabilities to look at the most advanced AI solution for manufacturing. So we are seeing, the ability for someone who's on the shop floor to be working on a pilot with really some of the most amazing startups in the AI space. That's quite exciting as well. So I believe that, maybe to wrap up, Russian, I believe that we are going to see a lot of exciting opportunities in manufacturing, but to get there, it will require some changes when it comes to our educational systems, and also a lot of personal interest and commitment, so that people can on a continuous basis evolve and upgrade their skills.
Absolutely, man. And I think well said. A lot of those things resonate really well with what we're doing. Even currently, I'm involved with 550 kids, working with 8 international NGOs and IOs, working towards real world problems. So exactly what you're saying is in the movement. And thank you so much for all the advice and the sheer immense of knowledge that you have dropped within a very short period of time. Really appreciate it. And I'm sure all the listeners will take away a lot from today's episode. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, and look forward to the next conversation, Roshan.
Thank you, mate.
That's it for today's episode. Now it's time to take action and build on the learnings to get inspired. First up, jump onto rashansenanayaka.com/podcast and check out the show notes, links, and other relevant learning materials from this amazing episode. Next, if you learned something new today, click that subscribe button and set yourself up to receive live notifications on future episodes, as well as more opportunities to learn from our amazing guests, brands, and speakers. Last but not least, it's time to have your say. Join the conversation and share your thoughts and feedback on today's episode with a review, all while joining many others with a 5-star rating for Inspiring Design with Rashan Senanayaka. Till next time.